Good evening. Tonight we're going to start with Lesson 5 in our fraction unit. I can decompose unit fractions using area models to show equivalence. In our first example tonight, we're going to draw an area model to illustrate that 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So here's our tape diagram, or our area model, and we are going to show that 1/5 is equal to 2/10, that they are equivalent fractions. So right now you can see that our tape diagram or area model here is broken up into fifths, and this is representing 1/5 right here. It's colored in blue, and it's out of 5. How can we get it to look like 2/10? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to break this up into 2 rows. Now you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have showed tenths. It's broken up into 10 pieces. That's our denominator. And our numerator, 1, 2, is broken up into 2 pieces. And 2 is being taken out of the 10 to represent 2/10. So if we wanted to decompose this, this would look like 1/5 is equal to 1/10 plus 1/10, which is equal to 2/10. And that's what we have here. We have 1/10 and we have another tenth. And that's what we showed here. 1/10 plus 1/10 does equal 1/5 because 1/10 plus 1/10 is 2/10. So that's how we can decompose it using the sum. But what happens if we wanted to show it a product? Well, like we did in the past, we've got 2 times the unit fraction of 1/10, which is equal to 2/10. So we were able to decompose it using addition, and we can compose it back with using multiplication. 2 times 1/10. In our next example is decompose 1/3 as 4/12, represented in an area model as the sum and product of unit fractions. So we are going to show this in our area model of what those 2 equivalent fractions look like, and then we're going to decompose it using the sum of the fractions, and then compose it back together, finding the product, just like we did earlier, and that we have been doing. So now 1/3 is already demonstrated right here. This is broken up into thirds. So here's our denominator, it's 3, and in our numerator it's 1. 1 is being taken out to represent 1/3. But now we want to make it look like 4/12. So how we do that is that we're going to make this into, separate it into 4 rows there. See? Now let's count to see if our denominator is going to be a 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There is 12. And in our numerator, we're supposed to have 4. It's taken away 4 out of this 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is clearly showing that 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. But how is this going to look like if we decompose it? Well, let's look at this right here. 1/3 is equal to, because this is a unit fraction of 1/12, this is a unit fraction of 1/12. So all these are unit fractions. And how many do we have? Well, we have 4 of them. So 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 all equals to 4 times 1/12 equals 4/12. This is one long big number sentence that's showing how I am decomposing the 4/12 and showing how they're equivalent, and then composing it back together, finding the product. 4 times 1/12 equals 4/12. So this clearly shows that 1/3 and 4/12 are equivalent fractions. In our next one, it says model and represent the decomposition of the sum and product of unit fractions. So we have 1/2 is equal to 5/10, and we have to show that using this area model. And we're showing that this is already broken up into a half. 1, 2. That's our denominator, and our numerator, 1, is colored in, this yellow. So this is showing 1/2. How can we show this as 5/10? Well, we are going to make 5 rows. We have made 5 rows. And now let's see if we have a denominator that shows 10 in this area model. Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this area model has been broken up into 10. And we have the numerator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in the numerator. So 5 is being taken out of this 10. So this area model clearly shows that 1/2 is equal to 5/10, that they are equivalent fractions. But now let's show the decomposition of the sum of this. So we've got 1/2 is equal to, because remember, this is 1/10. This is a unit fraction of 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, and 1/10. So now we're going to do that. We're going to show 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 and 1/10, which is equal to 5/10. All right, but how is this going to look like now if we do the product of the unit fractions? Well, how many unit fractions do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 1/10. So we show 5 times 1/10 is equal to 5/10. So here we clearly showed and modeled and represented the decomposition of the sum and the product of the unit fractions. 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. Our next problem this evening is going to be draw horizontal lines to decompose each rectangle into the number of rows as indicated. Use the model to give the shaded area as both as a sum of unit fractions and as a multiplication sentence. So here they have done it for you as an example. And over here, these are the 3 rows. When they say the 3 rows as indicated, that's what they mean right here. So we need to take our area model here and we need to break it up into have 3 rows. That doesn't mean we're making 3 lines. We're just taking those 2 lines and we're making 3 separate rows because we want to show 1/2 is equivalent to another fraction that has a numerator of a 3, and we got to figure out the denominator. Well, if we look over here, we see that this area model was broken up into a half, right? But then since we added these 2 lines and made 3 rows, we now have a new denominator of 6. So this is a unit fraction of 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. So this shows 3/6. So let's put our 6 here. So 1/2 is equal to 3/6. And then if we decompose it, 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6, it does equal 3/6. But what about a multiplication sentence? Is that what we've been used to doing? 1/2. How many 1/6 do we have? Well, we have 3. So 3 times 1 unit fraction of 1/6 is equal to 3/6. All right, we're going to continue doing it now, but we have to show 2 rows. So right now we have got an area model here that's showing that it's broken up into fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 is shaded in. So this is representing 1/4. Okay, but now if we added in the 2 rows, it means we're going to draw just 1 line because we're going to make 2 rows. It now changes things, and now what we have is a unit fraction of 1/8. whoops, 2/8, because we have 2 that are shaded in, and it's out of 8. So we're showing here that 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. But how do we show that as decomposing this? Well, 1/4 is equal to 1/8 plus 1/8, which is 2/8. And as a multiplication sentence, we're saying 1/4 is equal to 2, because we have 2 of 1/8, times 1/8 is equal to 2/8. Draw and area models to show the decompositions represented by the number sentence below. Represent the decomposition as a sum of unit fractions and as a multiplication sentence. So now we're given 1/3 is equal to 2/6, and they want to represent this by using a model, an area model. So I'm going to draw out an area model that represents 1/3. So this represents 1/3 because it's broken up into 3 parts. That's the denominator, and 1 is shaded in. But now I have to show that it's equal to 2/6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it in half. And now we have a denominator now that's 6 because it's broken up into 6 pieces, and 2 are shaded in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 represents the denominator of 6, and 2 are shaded in. So now we have a unit fraction of 1/6, 1/6, and 1/6. So up here we originally had a third because it was broken up into thirds, and once I drew that line across, we're now showing 2/6. So this represents 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. But now let's do the decomposition as a sum of unit fractions. So now I'm going to have 1/3 is equal to 1/6 plus 1/6, and that is equal to 2/6. And as a multiplication sentence, we're kind of composing it back together again. 1/3, because how many 6 do we have? Well, we have 2 6. So we have 2 groups of 1/6 times 1/6 is equal to 2/6. All right, guys, now you give it a try. Give it your all. Otherwise, you're only cheating yourself. Always give your 100%, guys. All right, and problem number 1, you have an area model here. First, you got to figure out what it's broken into. What's the first fraction on the top? What's this going to equal to? And then figure out the equivalent fraction by creating 3 rows. Remember, we're not making 3 lines, we're just making 3 rows. And then I want you to decide which one of the number sentences is correct. Please bring in your work tomorrow. All right, in our last one, I want you to draw an area model to show the decomposition represented by the number sentence below. Represent the decomposition as the sum of unit fractions and as a multiplication sentence. So guys, you got to make an area model here. You got to show an addition, a decomposition of the addition of the unit fractions, and a multiplication sentence. Just exactly what we've been doing this evening and the past couple of days. So show 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10 by doing those 3 things: area model, decomposition of the sum of unit fractions, and a multiplication sentence. And I want to see your work tomorrow. You are going to choose which number sentence is correct. You are officially amazing, guys. Have a wonderful night.